Hey, Mayor, how are you? We're, we're trying to figure. There's Nevin in his what's the Kincaid painting that you see like on checks? That's what I think.
He's not listening.
Yeah,
He's like a cowboy walking into the sunset. Like riding into the sunset.
it's called Nevin in watercolor. So, all right. I see we got Commissioner Street on. We're still waiting on Commissioner Granger and Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Lucas did call me, and unfortunately, a family friend had an emergency in Tallahassee, and she's one of the emergency contacts. So she sends her regret. So we're praying for safe travel for Commissioner Lucas and for her family friend that she's going to go over and try to help deal with some of that in Tallahassee this evening. So. I haven't heard from Commissioner Hughes or Commissioner Granger, so my expectation is they'll be joining momentarily. So we'll just give them about maybe 90 seconds. What now? Okay. Yeah, we're going to text them. So just a recap, or not a recap, kind of a teaser. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of go through at the beginning kind of an overview of kind of the different types of plans, because I know we've got a comprehensive plan, we've got the annual work plan, and then we have the project. So kind of clarify what those three different things are. We've got some scheduling issues that we need some feedback on. A couple of them, my decision, but I'd love to just make sure that there's no objection. Not really a voting issue, but just a coordination issue. And then I got an update from Virtuous Cycle as well. Had some conversation with that, and just would love to give you guys an opportunity to kind of chat through the 447 Harrison Avenue, the Breezeway. And then obviously at the meeting on October 7th, we'll have a decision point at that point at the actual CRA board meeting. So,
the document shared via email is probably one of the best. I've never seen anything this extensive that lays out.
Oh, the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I don't know if we do. I mean, I've never seen a document of this detailed ever.
Yeah, Joy did that yesterday in a couple hours. Yeah.
No,
the CRA's been working on updating those plans. And prior, each district had their own district plan. We're trying to combine them all into one. And we also worked from the Dover Cole neighborhood plans.
Yep.
To kind of tie it all together. But, we've been working towards this for like the last year and a half, 2 years. So and anytime you expand the CRA, like we recently expanded St. Andrews, you're required to update your plans. I know I just read half of Jonathan's statement.
That's okay. I think we've
but don't worry, Jonathan will figure out something to talk about.
We lost Commissioner Street. Oh, there we go.
He's still there.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I think we're just going to go ahead and get started then in the interest of time. So, quick, the first issue is that the way the weeks fall, we have our CRA board meeting. The first Tuesday is not until the 7th because the September 30th is a Tuesday. So it's a little bit later in the month because the way that falls. But the second full week of October, which is the week of the 13th, a few of us are going to the FRA conference, the Florida Redevelopment Association, myself, some staff, and then Commissioner Lucas and Commissioner Street. And so if there's no real objections, we're just going to cancel the virtual workshop for that week, which would be on Wednesday the 15th. And again, we would have just had a CRA board meeting the week prior to that because of everything that falls with the calendar. So real quick, so the difference between a number of the plans. So what we circulated yesterday is the comprehensive plan, and a CRA comprehensive plan. It's required by Florida statutes, and it's kind of serves as the guiding document for each of the CRAs. It outlines the vision for the district, the current challenges we're working to address, and establishes the overarching goals, objectives, and strategies. And so these provide flexibility to invest in a wide range of projects, which we know the CRA board and staff desires, different programs and initiatives that improve the area rather than prescribing and locking us into very specific projects. So each CRA plan must line up with the city's comprehensive plan. That's why we have the comprehensive plan. We have to identify the district's needs and opportunities. We have to outline strategies, sample projects, and programs to meet those needs. And then anytime we update the district, like we expand it or make modifications to it, the CRA comprehensive plan has to be updated. So it matters because by law, the CRA can only fund projects and programs that support the goals and strategies as outlined in the plan. So it kind of serves as that legal basis for how a CRA and the funds can be spent. It helps keeps us accountable and transparent. And it can be amended. That's important. We have flexibility. It can be amended as things change. But the best practice is to review and update it every 4 to 5 years. So the cost for the recent updated plan that was circulated, initially the task order was for about $95,000. It ended up being about $109,000 to the consultant's GAI. Now, this doesn't include the legal fees. And it's important to note that in the past, each district plan was updated separately. Now, all 4 districts are structured together in one single document, which will make future amendments more simpler and quicker and more efficient. And this is a kind of the big reason why it took almost 2 years for it to be complete. So that's the comprehensive plan. Again, 4 to 5 years, much bigger effort, a lot bigger document. The annual work plan is something that is updated annually. Of course, the title tells us that. It's basically a 1-year roadmap outlining specific CRA projects, plans, and initiatives for that fiscal year. It helps the board and staff set priorities. It ensures that the projects align with the CRA goals and provides accountability through measurable, determined results. Best practice is for the board to review and approve it every single year. And it can be amended as needed. However, approval is not required by statute. It commits, again, the annual work plan commits CRA funds to specific projects for the next fiscal year, and it ensures projects support CRA goals and objectives, and it provides measurable outcomes that are required by state statute. So looking forward, we want to start providing a 3 or a 5-year work plan in addition to our annual work plan. So then this gets us into the current projects, and I will pull up a presentation. Okay. Right. See if we can do this here now. All right, so this is the annual work plan for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. So again, just to recap, we've got the downtown district, the St. Andrews district, downtown north district, and the Millville district. And these are listed in order of the age. And again, all sunset in 2044. You guys know about the goals and the whole reason and purpose behind the CRA and what we hope to accomplish. So the fiscal year 2024 2025 projects in process. And I'm going to just kind of give a quick update on some of the highlights. We have the downtown breezeway. We're going to talk about that kind of closer to the end in regards to the specific RFQ that we received and the negotiation that is currently underway. But the project is currently on hold pending directive from the board. The CRA is currently funding the maintenance and utilities for the property. The Incremental Development Alliance training program. The budget is $45,000. We've expended about $7,200 so far. And the introduction to the Incremental Development lecture was held on September 4th, 2025 at the Barbara Nelson Fine Arts Center at Bay High. We had just shy of 100 attendees. The lecture provided an overview of how everyday people can become small-scale real estate developers or encourage better buildings in their own neighborhoods. As a next step, we are inviting the public to register for a full-day in-person small-scale development workshop on November 14th, 2025 at the Glenwood Community Center. This workshop will offer a comprehensive look at the project development process for community-based real estate initiatives. The Welcome to Glenwood signs, budget is about $1,000. The two Welcome to Glenwood signs along 11th Street are damaged and show wear and tear that could not be corrected simply with cleaning. Replacement panels with the same design are currently in production, and we expect to install them in the next few weeks. Henry Davis Park improvements, budget is $125,000. So far, we've expended about $86,000. Several key features of this in-house project are now complete. These include a large pavilion with picnic tables, grill, and hot coals bin, the Gaga pit, additional sidewalks, and a shades cell, a workstation table and shed stocked with supplies for the community garden. All these are amenities that are now at Henry Davis Park. The bank shot court is being poured this week, with PCR painting the court design soon after. Looking ahead, upcoming work includes enhancements to the old pavilion, installing new fencing and new park signs, and the Kiwanis Playground installation is planned for late February. In addition, we're preparing a memorial marker honoring Henry A. Davis, a small interactive learning path, and a community celebration event is going to be planned for April of 2026. And last, but certainly not least, actually I got another page, never mind. For Millville Waterfront Park, the budget was $1.5 million. We've expended $874,000 so far, with some grants as well. We've got a USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture tree grant for $76,500. And then as a reminder, CPAR, the Central Panhandle Association of Realtors, donated pergolas in the amount of $7,500. This project has been a strong in-house effort with engineering, facility maintenance, and Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec has handled all the debris removal, tree planting, and playground installation, while facility maintenance through the logistics department has built pergola swings, picnic shelters, and managed all of the electrical details. The amphitheater is in its final stretch with brickwork, handrails, concrete, and lighting being finished over the next 3 weeks. And in late October, the parking area will be redone and expanded with dedicated spaces, golf cart spaces, and additional ADA parking spaces. Looking forward, the bathrooms will be built in-house this winter with facility maintenance and public works departments working together. The project is on track to wrap up by the end of first quarter 2026 calendar year, delivering a beautiful waterfront park for concerts, festival, and everyday use. The historic Millville Cemetery rehabilitation. We've got a budget of approximately $15,000 for this. This project is a collaborative effort between Fort Bay County, North Star Church, Carlisle Baptist Church, Galilean Baptist Church, Emmanuel Baptist Church, and Highland Park Baptist Church to engage more than over 100 volunteers for a volunteer day planned for October 25th to repaint the cemetery fence. The CRA will provide paint, supplies, water, and snacks, while Parks and Rec will prepare the site by cleaning the fence line, power washing the fence and the sign, setting up all the tents, tables, and coolers full of drinks. The initiative represents the first phase of the project, with a second phase later in the year focused on beautifying the cemetery grounds and headstones. Millville, the East 5th Street beautification. Budget's $20,000. We've expended just shy of $12,000 so far. The project has transformed a site that was severely overgrown, was used as a dump site, and periodically served as transient residence. A vendor recently completed clearing the area, making an important step in restoring this community space. Moving forward will be hydro seeding, and facility maintenance will install 2 pergola swings, which will also prevent dumping. And solar lighting will be added to improve both safety and the overall experience for residents and visitors alike. Beck Avenue DOT beautification. Budget is $520,000. We've expended $0. And again, this is a grant funding totaling $500,000. The DOT permit was received and Piney Grove has begun work on the irrigation. Planning will take place in the upcoming months and the project remains on track for completion sometime this December or early January at the latest. Oaks by the Bay. The new Century Tree and event security rope. Budget's approximately $7,500 and we've expended $4,600 thus far. The CRA is working with the Parks and Rec Department as well as the Historic St. Andrews Waterfront Partnership to install a live new oak tree, a new oak tree that is a live oak, to be clear, It is alive, and it is also a live oak at the park. Sorry, I twisted myself up there. At the park that will be named the New Century tree. The planning is scheduled. The planning will be done October 7th with a dedication event planned for October 10th at 2 p.m. So, we've got the old century down there, and this is where that little totem pole tree was with the mermaid, or whatever. And so when it died, it became unsafe. Commissioner Street had the idea, in getting feedback from the community, to plant a new live oak tree there that we would then refer to as New Century. So excited about that. The CRA also purchased a new event security rope to be used during the Christmas light display season at Oaks by the Bay. St. Andrews Public Art, budget $6,000. We've expended $5,900. The CRA is installing a brass hopscotch design into the sidewalk at 10th Street in front of Amavita, with placement coordinated in collaboration with the Historic St. Andrews Waterfront Partnership. The set is currently in fabrication, and installation is tentatively planned for mid to late October. St. Andrews Beautification, budget's $2,000. We've expended almost $1,200. The CRA is partnering with Parks and Rec to restore one of the district's most recognizable features. The wood pilings along Beck Avenue and throughout the district are being repaired, and the rope is being replaced. This will give the area a refreshed and unified look, with completion planned to coincide with the Beck Avenue DOT project in December of 2025. Panama City Police Department, event security and barriers and trailer. Budget's $15,000. We've expended $2,000. The CRA and the Panama City Police Department are collaborating to strengthen security at our large community events. As part of this effort, the CRA is funding the purchase of additional barricades, along with a custom retrofit trailer designed to store and deploy them efficiently. This investment will not only improve event safety, but will also streamline setup and operations for the police department. And last but not least, the CRA, for real this time, the CRA plans update. After months of revisions, we've received the final CRA plans from GAI, and they're ready for adoption. But before that can happen, we're required to hold a public meeting to review the plans with the community. The meeting is scheduled for September 30th at 5:30 p.m. in the City Hall Rotunda. Following the meeting, any additional revisions will be made as needed, and the plans will then move forward to the CRA board for adoption, and finally to the City Commission for approval. Is this where I should put?
Robbie has tried to get in a few times, maybe Ranger.
Okay.
And he said he's tried from 2 different computers, and it says it's waiting.
Is this
Okay,
call, is this call just going to be Jonathan reading the document that previously was sent to us?
No, I don't think this wasn't sent to you. So, all right. Did we get them in? I think we got them in.
See if
Yeah.
Commissioner Hughes was able to get in.
Let me try. Granger got in.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not showing anybody's asking. So, all right. Let's finish this real quick. And so, let me minimize that. All right. So now we get into the 2025. Yes, ma'am. What? You're good. Again, work plan. And I know we've kind of shared this in the past, but these are, kind of the project and program summary looking forward to the next fiscal year. Sorry.
Do you want to go over?
It sounds like they want to get.
Yeah, but we need some direction on these ones that say or.
Yeah. So as we look at some of these options, this is what we need to kind of get some discussion tonight. And that'll be, kind of the bulk of the meeting. And then obviously we'll make a decision and get some additional feedback at the meeting, at the actual meeting itself. So you can see some of the different options, and again, I'll update us later on the Downtown Breezeway, or we want to move towards the Panama City Grammar. In regards to Millville, do we want to focus on the 3rd Street bond project, or street resurfacing, or sidewalk repairs? Over in St. Andrews, neighborhood lighting, or Oaks by the Bay, additional lights. I don't know if there's any other ors in there.
Those are the 3.
Those are kind of the 3 that we kind of need some direction on. And then again, these are just some of the initiative summaries that we've done, between the socials, plan updates, beautifications, the MOUs, and kind of what we're looking at. And then again, we're kind of looking at combining these just as a reference for next year. We're looking at, instead of having multiple socials around it. We're going to have one big one, looking at having it February 19th, 2026 in the City Hall Rotunda. And that, again, same kind of setup, but it just have one event, and maybe we'll get more people there. This one, you'll be able to meet staff, commissioners, discuss the budget projects, and then obviously gather the input that we need. So
I think
y'all know the board.
Hughes is on.
All right. We're going to try to get Hughes in now. Let's see.
I think Robbie's here. I see him.
There he is. All right. So, and then, screen sharing. So last but not least, just to kind of show kind of the timeline of this, of the whole, just the comprehensive plan and kind of, what has happened over the last year, and then kind of what needs to happen. So again, we're kind of at this point right now where, we've got the CRA board will kind of do that initial review on October 7th and basically give us approval to adopt the pending planning and the taxing authority notice. Then it goes to the planning board review. That could take up to 60 days, but based on the timeline, we don't expect that to happen. Final revisions, if needed, after the planning board review, then we'll send notice to the taxing authorities with updated plans and proposed ordinance. Then we get into November, CRA board, the second hearing. You'll vote to approve and adopt through resolution. Then you'll vote to send it to the governing body. And then at the commission meetings, first public hearing for the ordinance adopting amended modified plan. And then at the December meeting will be the second public hearing for the ordinance adopting the amended and modified plan. So I believe that's everything that we need to share. Correct, ladies?
Yes.
All right. So we will stop sharing. So, hey, Robbie, and all right. Sorry for some of the technical difficulty there. So that's just kind of, again, just the quick overview of the comprehensive plan, the annual work plan, the current projects, and kind of the three different, kind of explanations for those and the different type plans. Now open it up to you guys. I'd love to get some feedback. Obviously, we'll make a decision October 7th at the CRA board meeting on the specific projects where we, kind of need some guidance from y'all. And then, it's at whatever point you guys are ready, I can kind of give an update on where we are with Harrison Avenue Breezeway with Virtuous Cycle, the group that did respond to a request for proposals and that y'all have authorized us to negotiate with.
Well, let's start there because that path forward affects other things.
So I have had conversations with the principal from Virtuous Cycle. Again, I think I shared this at the last workshop, in that with both the bathrooms and the breezeway falling on the developer, the project simply doesn't pencil. And so the thought is that the building in their mind is not quite worth as much as maybe some do think it is. So our options are, we can, the city could take the money that is allocated for it and just move forward with the design that we got from I think it was Florida Architects, or
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
From Florida Architects, and we can kind of recirculate that if needed. I know y'all have all seen it, but we can circulate it again. And then it just remains a city asset, and we build it out as planned with the money that's kind of already been earmarked or allocated for it. Or we could go back out for RFPs again and specifically kind of state, listen, if you're going to respond, the city definitely wants there to be the easement maintained for the breezeway so people can get from Grace to Harrison. And the city does absolutely desire for there to be bathrooms installed. And again, bring it up now for some discussion, but I will be asking for direction from the CRA board on October 7th. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I would put it back out for bid. And the idea that the bathroom adds cost, it doesn't. It's the same bathrooms, the same stalls. The door is just oriented towards the hallway. And it's a shared bathroom And if you were to do individual spaces, they would individually need bathrooms. And so this is a cumulative bathroom that they share. There's ongoing costs for more people to use the bathrooms. That's a discussion. Like I could see the point that developer could say is, well, that's a lot of toilet flushes and someone has to pay for the water. And so we might even have to have a separate irrigation meter for the bathroom since it's a public restroom. I can understand that, but I'd like to put it back out for bid. That's what I would.
Yep. All right. We'll just go in order then, Mr. Granger. It's weird the way they just jump around. Okay, he had his hand up, but he dropped it. All right, Mr. Street.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Can you
Mr.
hear me now?
Street. I'll come back to you. Yeah, we can hear you now, Mr. Granger. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Sorry about that. They were the only responsive bid, right? I mean, refresh my memory on this.
Yeah, no, there were two. There was one that was submitted by Jason and Heather Kretzer for the portal. And it was, a little bit more scaled back. It did require, some level of city investment as well, but they weren't really asking to control, near as much as say the Virtuous Cycle folks were. So, or the developer might. So,
Okay.
But yes, there were two that were submitted.
Okay, then I support going back out to bid as well with clarification.
Yep. All right, Mr. Street.
Yep, I'll third that, go back out for all the reasons already expressed. And the fact that Streetscapes is done now for that section and it wasn't when we went out the first time.
All right. Well, we will plan to seek formal direction on that at the October 7th meeting. Yes, sir. Mr. Hughes?
Was the first bid, did it say we wanted an easement and bathrooms?
Well,
The first RFP. The first
The
RFP.
request for proposals. It did indicate the breezeway. I don't know if it indicated the bathroom.
The only requirement that we placed on it when we solicited for proposals was that it would maintain a breezeway. And we've since talked to Virtuous Cycle about, we could just, the minimum required. I mean, we didn't even specify how wide it needed to be because the building is it's pretty narrow.
Okay, so, and I asked that question because it's kind of the same principle as with Jason Oaks. We have to tell people up front what we want them to bid on. It changes the way that they bid. It changes the price. So by not having the bathroom in there, while I'll agree with the mayor that it's not that much more expensive, but it's an entire bathroom that they hadn't planned on when they looked at the bid. Does that make sense?
Incorrect.
And so, sir?
That's
Yeah.
incorrect. You can have a shared bathroom that you're going to use for your tenants and the public. That's my point.
That's true. That's true. But if there's not a bathroom plan in the RFP, if that doesn't say that, it doesn't matter that whether it's shared or not. That's a cost that you had not planned on when you're making the offer. It's not fair. It's like for me to say, Alan, I'm going to say these glasses. And when I get right about the time I give you the money, you say, well, you got to wear them upside down and paint them purple. But you didn't know that. You might have paid me less for not taking them. Does that make sense? And that's where I'm
So I
coming
think
from. Is they need
Robbie's
all the
saying-
information.
Robbie's saying the RFP should say, we desire a public restroom that you can also use for your own occupancy.
10-4. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. I
Get
think
that
there
out.
was a wish list that was put out, but I want to be clear though. I understand the principle that you're speaking to, Mr. Hughes, but we didn't. Jason Oaks wasn't responding to anything. That was an unsolicited offer, so the city
get
didn't
that.
put anything out on that.
I get that. Yes, I get that. I just again, let's think through our RFPs before we put them out. That says we might have this idea, we might not, because after the fact, it doesn't work for people. It affects how much they think it's worth, how much they're willing to pay for it. That's all I'm saying. And we want to maximize the dollars.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and look at some of our notes, but we put this RFP out under the last commission, and I don't know, Mr. Street, Mr. Granger, I don't know that we absolutely spoke about wanting to require a bathroom. I think that was kind of a bonus, maybe. I think collectively we only wanted the breezeway. Can you remember, Mr. Street?
I can't recall, but I mean, at this point, like we just go back out and just detail that and
100%.
move on.
All right. So we'll bring that back October 7th at the board and get y'all to basically vote to, well, basically reject the two RFPs, and we'll go back out with this.
I think you could even argue that the breezeway is a hallway that actually creates separate space, multiple spaces for the building where you can have a higher rent base as well. So even the argument that the breezeway is something that if I were to own the building outright as a real estate person, I would add a hallway so you could access multiple units in the stack. So you would have to create the breezeway it's like an arcade is actually the term, the arcade.
Arcade.
So.
I will say one thing, and then we'll go to Mr. Street. The only thing I keep in mind is that even if the city, I think it's probably to underscore the mayor's point, even if we as a city didn't require a bathroom, the developer or builder was going to have to put a bathroom anyway, because he can't come in and develop all this retail space because the city code would have required them to put a bathroom in there. And so it's a matter of just tweaking it and adding a doorway so you can get to it from both the inside and outside or from the common area. I think so they were going to have to build a bathroom no matter what. So yes, Mr. Street, unless all they wanted to do was keep a breezeway there. And at that point, why would they do anything with us?
Sometimes you go out to RFP and you don't get the right partner and you refine what your approach is. And I think that's all this is. To Alan's point, yeah, like if you were in a mall, and let's just say that the downtown corridor or the downtown Harrison Avenue was a mall and you had shops lining up on either side, that property would be prime because that's where everyone's going to filter that are leaving the parking lots. And so you're going to get more foot traffic at that location than you will at other locations. So there is an argument to be say it's one of the most valuable pieces. And I think if we find the right partner, then they'll see the value in it.
Yeah, the cost of the breezeway gets overly compensated by the increase in rent you can have because of the foot traffic.
Yes, the foot traffic drives the reach.
And the restroom.
Yep, I agree. It drives the value is more people equals higher dollar amount. This particular parcel will have some of the largest traffic of any place on Harrison Avenue.
Correct.
All right. Anything else y'all like to speak about in regards to some of the OR items? I can put them back up if that's helpful.
Yes, please put them back up for us.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like at the very least, the breezeway, downtown breezeway or Panama Grammar, we're not spending any more hard costs on at least the construction of that building. There will be administrative costs for the RFP type stuff. But the very top one that says breezeway or Panama Grammar, seemingly the breezeway won't be us at least this year. So we can allocate that money to Panama Grammar if we want to.
Those are the two big projects that we've heard from our conversation with y'all for the downtown district. Yes, sir.
We just didn't want to say if we spend the money on grammar, we wanted to make sure we communicated that, then we would not be able to do the build out of the breezeway for next year.
Which is in 2 weeks.
I would, if I had to choose a possible getting Panama Grammar online and that project going and having a breezeway project that stayed like it is for 2 years, I'm okay with that. Maybe someone disagrees with me.
I don't. I think there's a little bit of confusion. I talked with Jason Crutcher this morning, and there seems to be some confusion on that we're putting in a bunch of cash into this endeavor. No, it's not cash. It's bondable capacity, and so that is not cash on hand. So $300,000, we wouldn't spend that much on Panama Grammar because all you're going to do is you're going to carry your cost until the tax certificate is reimbursed. That's it. So I don't think that there's even $300,000 worth of impact. So you probably have some more money you can program elsewhere, even above that.
So what are you planning on doing if you're going to repurpose it? How are you going to do it without cash? What are you going to do?
You get a construction loan the same way that you would if you had a construction loan. That's how you fund the project. So,
okay. Why do we want to get a loan on something we don't own, we don't control, and it puts the city in debt? Can somebody help me with that?
I mean, Robbie, I think what I've gathered from this is we may just agree to disagree on this. I think
Well, man, but we got to, Josh. I mean, you want to put money in something that we don't own that's going to increase the inability to buy it or use it because of the money that we spend on it. Who's going to own it is the city. We're the only people that can pay it back.
We just voted yesterday to spend $15,000 on the feasibility study.
And that was on tourist dollars that our tax dollars that is not Panama City tax dollars. And I was very clear about that, just like I am today. We're spending tax dollars on something that we don't own so that we can put something back together, but we have a code enforcement pathway to get that done, except the only path that is y'all don't like. You either don't want to tear it down or let it sit there. But why is it our job to fix something that we don't know? Because, and to your point, Mayor, we were doing a study on the other one. This one, we're fixing something we don't own. The apples to orange, but your concept is correct. Can you help me on that? Because I am really.
I think it's just a philosophical difference. I mean, I think that's all it is, Robbie. When it really comes down to it, as far as I'm concerned, it's about enforcing the codes and the ordinances that we have on our books. And that means you can't leave a building without a roof and creating negative impact on the property owners that are adjacent. And so how we get to that is by doing a tax lien, correcting it like we've done 1,000 times before since Hurricane Michael. We have fixed and we've mitigated, we've done all sorts of things all across the city because property owners abandon their property. And this is just another example of that. And I understand your viewpoint. I'm not even saying it's a bad viewpoint, right? It's just a different one. And so I think the value you assess to it is in just the land. The value I assess to it is the historic building. And that's where we diverge.
Okay. So for the record, I love old houses. I love old buildings. I love history. This is not about taking something down. And for me, it's about the land, yes, but it's about putting good money after something that has zero chance of a return. And it's our tax. Do we have a guess of what it's going to cost? Does anybody happen to throw that out there? I'm going to guess $2 million because it's going to be at least that.
We have an engineered estimate. Like we have an already evaluation by an engineer and a professionally done study that we paid for, by the way.
2 years ago.
Yes, 2 years ago.
Okay. So $1.5 million 2 years ago is equal to what? Let's just call it $2 million, Josh. So $2 million.
Well, it wasn't $1.5 million, so it was a little over $1 million. And the estimate that we used was 1.25, which is about a 10-15% more than what it was 2 years ago. I mean, the argument could be made we were in COVID inflated pricing 2 years ago, and prices have come down, which is what we're seeing from the city. I understand what you're saying. I think, Robbie, you're trying to convince me to not do it. And what I'm trying to communicate. I'm just going to
vote against it. I'm not going to try to convince you.
And I think
that's it.
I think that's the great thing about the plurality of government. We could be friends, and we can.
I get it. I just don't understand why. The number of people that have called me and said thank you for speaking up about not putting our tax dollars towards that so far that leads the pack. Emails yesterday. It was on the road name change that somebody put out there. That leads the pack on emails. But this one is phone calls, and I'm trying to. And I haven't.
And I've had the
agree with that. But
And so I've had the opposite of people saying, thank you. If we lose another piece of our history, it's just another chapter closed in the history of Panama City. And this has been around for a long time. I can't believe the landowner let it get to this point. Thank you so much for stepping in to try and help it save it. So
Can I be snarky for a second, Commissioner?
You already said
How about you buy it? And then you spend all the money you want to on it. So, I'm having trouble with it's the tax dollars, Josh, to be very honest with you. If it was me and you doing it, I'd think different about it because it's our money. But this is tax dollars that 100%
so philosophically,
how do we would never get back.
Robbie, how do we stomach even a facade grant? That's us investing tax dollars into someone else's building.
Okay. That's a program we have downtown for business owners that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We have a program
Roof grants are specifically for people who have roofs falling in. So
Downtown, you're talking, that roof
in
grant's
general,
gone, isn't it?
the roof grants are a very common thing and CRAs across America, especially in Florida. And the goal is to create a house that someone who can't afford a new roof, where 10 years later the roof starts collapsing and the house becomes blighted and becomes an eyesore. The
Okay.
exact same premise of a roof grant and the purpose of it. The roof grants in the CRA, especially roof grants, are not meant to supplement someone who can afford a new roof. It's to help someone who can't afford a roof. That
Well,
is
you just
simply
said
the
it. They
purpose.
can afford it. We're gonna, you
And they're
just,
going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. I think that's the point we're making. Is we're merely forcing them to pay for it in a year and a half or whenever the tax roll comes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah,
But
I
we
mean,
can't-
again,
we
this
can't
is something
foreclose on
they
that,
pay
can
for.
we? Yeah, we can't foreclose. Well, after the fact on a tax bill, we can't foreclose on that, though, can we?
Robbie, but there's no mortgage on it. I mean, is the property worth like what we're
When
putting
it goes
into
on their
it?
tax bill is what I'm saying. If they don't pay the tax bill, we have to buy tax certificates, right? We can't foreclose.
We don't buy
on it.
them. Private investors buy tax certificates.
I mean,
So if somebody
that's
was
what I meant, yeah.
interested in it, then they could buy the tax certificate and they may end up with the property. That's not us having to buy the property. I think the difference here is like, and maybe this is just like maybe I'm desensitized to it, but I mean, like we've literally done millions of dollars worth of exactly what we're talking about since Hurricane Michael. I mean, it's probably somewhere of $8 million total since Hurricane Michael. So this is just another chapter in what we've been mitigating through code enforcement since 2018. And so, and again, like the owner still has, and they still have an opportunity to fix it, like to put a roof on it, to not have broken windows, to not have transients living in it. I mean, like they still have the opportunity to do that. But I guarantee if you knock the doors of the businesses that are right on the other side of it, they're pretty happy that we're trying to actually do something because they've been looking out their back window for a long time.
I bet they are. Yeah. And I bet the owners are very happy too, because they're going to get something. But it's guys, it's fine. I've got to voice my opinion because
Yeah.
I disagree with it. And I unfortunately feel like that we're going to, I bet my salary we'd end up owning that property if we put $2 million into it. I mean, it doesn't make financial sense to me. And that's all I'm saying. We love
Well,
old buildings.
I respect that. I totally respect that opinion, Robbie. I don't think that it's like just off the wall kind of opinion. It's just, I think where we're at is we've kind of waited for as long as we can wait. And if we don't act now, then yes, we are just accepting it's going to get torn down.
Okay. So we're going to get a full cost estimate of what you want to do before we go forward on that, right?
Well, yes, because I mean, there's going to be loan documents that have to come. There's going to be a work plan. There's another magistrate hearing that's coming up. Again, the property owner could
That's
say,
tomorrow.
"Hey, I'm going to do this." Yeah. So I mean, my opinion is you proceed forward and keep going, and hopefully the property owner like takes action themselves. But if they don't, we need to be ready so that the building doesn't ultimately get just demolished by neglect. That's my take on it, Robbie. But again, right now we haven't spent a dollar.
Good. Okay.
So we're in agreement right now.
We're in agreement. I love it. How about it? I love it.
Commissioner Granger, you have an opinion on the PC Grammar School versus the Downtown Breezeway, sir? I know your support is going back out for RFP. All right, we'll assume none. And then, so Mr. Mayor, commissioners, we can jump over to kind of Millville. We got the bond project, kind of what we call the Millville streetscapes, or, street resurfacing, or, continue to make sidewalk repairs, in areas where there are no major infrastructure projects.
So just as a recap, the Third Street Bond Project is a potential sidewalk widening, infrastructure, and a resurfacing, correct?
Correct. Very similar to what we did with Harrison Avenue, doing something very similar from, I want to say, from Maple, Mr. Mayor, to Everett, kind of like that whole, and of course, more on the west end is where that business is. And as you get a little bit further east, it's more residential. So that stretch.
Okay, and this is it the exact same cost for just a resurfacing, And is the exact same cost for the sidewalk repair? Are those all equal costs?
So can I answer?
Yeah, you can. I mean, obviously, street repair is going to be more expensive than sidewalks,
Yeah,
but go ahead.
we have 450,000 allocated to some kind of repair, upgrade of infrastructure for next year. The total bond project would be, it was
3.5, I
estimated
think.
to be about 3.5 million. And so we would bond that out over, what 18 years is what we were looking at till the CRA is sunsetted in 2044. And so we would pay that 450,000 every year towards that, or a portion of that, whatever that ends up being. Or we heard some feedback from the board, and that maybe instead of doing the streets bond project, if we just took that money that we had allocated for that payment for next year, that 450,000, and resurfaced some streets in that district that need just some simple mill and resurface type work to them. It would not be infrastructure. It would just be resurfacing, which would get us about a half a mile of road resurfacing. Or we could use that 450,000 for sidewalk repairs. Something else we've been discussing internally with our public works team, we could look at doing like a interlocal agreement with our public works department to do, I know we've been talking about for several years standing up a true asphalt paving team. We could look at doing an interlocal with them and try to buy some equipment and fund some employees to do a asphalt crew. But that would also be like another bond type project. That would be more than 450,000 to do that. But anyway, there's several different options for that 450,000.
Have we started using the zipper yet?
We've done a few areas to that end, and we'll get some practice doing like larger utility cuts. Instead of just doing the strip, we'll do the kind of like 25 foot on each side of it in order to do kind of a mill and resurface on it. But always the $1 million question on road resurfacing is, what is the condition of the underground infrastructure? So, all right, we'll remember. And Mr. Street, I see you have your hand up. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second.
So I would be supportive of taking, whether it's to sidewalks, whether it's to roads, pick one direction or the other, and coupling that with our legislative ask this go around to double our money. So a 50% match would be very competitive to receiving that, as well as looking at our CBDG available funding and seeing what we can layer with all of that. And you may be able to come out with, $1 million or more to tackle it. If there's something small that we need to kind of tackle, I think that's the thing. The in-house piece, I mean, I don't know that we're there yet. I mean, potholes and things like that, they always come out really, really good. I don't know that we're ready to do a half a block, a whole block worth of paving. But a concept would be, using it as match to one of the competitive grant processes to get more done in Millville. So, but does this include, we already funded the Boys and Girls Club thing, correct? So we're not talking about different things, or is that one?
It's on the next page.
All right, hang on here. Let me
I believe it's on the next slide.
go back to sharing.
This is a question I got here on the link. Are we talking about from the four-way stop at 3rd Street and Sherman going east? Is that what we're talking about? On 3rd Street in Millville?
So like from the waterfront park to Daffin Park, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All good.
And it's kind of a concept on 3rd Street, I guess. If we build it, they will come. You can go in there, and to Josh's point, you need to pick roads or sidewalks. And Josh, what you're talking about is we find a grant that says we've got $600,000 and it's got 600, and that together makes 1.2.
Yes, exactly.
New guy learning here. So
Yeah.
how do you find, and that comes from the state DOT?
No, it can come through a legislative appropriation. I mean, that could be
Okay.
one of those things. It could come from a CBDG, small grants, competitive process. There's a couple of them that are out there
Okay.
that allows us to compete for stuff. I personally, we've got surtax stuff. I'd love to see us combine that to compete for some more dollars. But when you talk about roads and sidewalks, there's a lot of other funding. We could couple it with the Safe Routes to School. We could couple it with some other program that's out there for sidewalks. So I think it's just really about what do we want to accomplish.
Okay.
And
Is
I think
only
what
one
I'm
grant
understanding,
allowed for a project? Can you do multiple grants on one project or no?
you can, but the problem that you run into is the cycle. So you may have an application cycle that's in September, and then you got one that's in March, and then you got another one that's in July.
Gotcha.
So it's tough to layer it when you've got different timelines you're working with.
It's the reason the work starts when it starts, and it's not all at the same time. So yeah. Okay.
Brian,
Thanks.
sorry, Mr. Hughes, just to answer your question. So, and we yield not every social was had as many people attend, but the concept of the streetscapes in that bond project came out of one of the socials. And yes, I think there is, I think it's both. I mean, I think that, you do need to have people with a vision, but I think obviously improving it does help kind of create. So it's a both and. So I think downtown, I think there was both a desire for folks to come downtown. And then I think that, so that spark became a fire with the investment of the streetscapes on top of all of that. So
And that's
it
kind of
wasn't-
where I was coming from, Jonathan. Yeah, for the longest time, I felt like downtown, and I'm gonna get smoked. There were people that kind of felt like the government ought to help downtown get going. Well, Hurricane Michael took care of that. We had to have the government help. And look at what people are doing down there. Unlike, say, St. Andrews, where it was very organic, the St. Andrews waterfront community, waterfront, all that worked. So here, again, the hurricane took care of it for us. So now we need to come back and do it. And I believe that people will show up. We're prettying up the park. And every time I go by that park, and I drive by there about 3 times a week, there's more people there every time because we're prettying it up. And if we do the same over there, it at least gives people the opportunity to go take a chance over there on 3rd Street, and open up a business. Look at all of them that are happening downtown and on in St. Andrews. Just people taking chances with businesses. So I like the idea.
The funds for the Boys and Girls Club are included in the commercial grants. You see that $550,000. That includes the Boys and Girls Club, whatever kind of grant or agreement or whatever we come up with for that effort, and also for the facade outdoor dining grants that were proposed for next year.
And then the last one is the neighborhood lighting or the Oaks by the Bay parks. Happy to defer to you, Commissioner Street, since that's in your ward. If you have any strong thoughts on that, but we're looking at about $65,000.
Yeah, so Michelle and I talked about it. So I think it's not going to use all of that, but every year we're spending, and granted they fundraise for this, so this isn't the CRA that's paying for it, but they fundraise for the Christmas light stuff. I think if we did some permanent installation stuff, it might be more, no different than what happened at McKenzie Park. It looks great. I think it's a great addition to a park, makes it a little safer at night. So, so I'm supportive of kind of splitting it. We've got a couple people that are going to donate to the lights that are going in the park. So I don't think it's going to be much to have to go to that, but it would definitely reduce the amount for us to be able to do street lighting with. So.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, because I know we met out in the field, and then just for everyone's situational awareness, obviously Truesdale Clubhouse renovation is a major priority for us next fiscal year. With both HRP money as well as CRA money, in addition to the large parking lot at the old diesel property, which we've got a grant for that. And by the way, it looks like we got our preliminary approval on that today in writing, so that's moving forward. But we want to increase boat trailer parking, which is a critical need, has been for many, many years in St. Andrews. the city's parking lot kind of behind the Chevron gas station and Hunts. And as we met out in the field, we're looking at, working with FPL to maybe underground some of that in that immediate footprint. And so, that could be, that's obviously a kind of an area for some public safety as well, because, there's not a lot of lights on that stretch of Chestnut. And when we move the parking lot there with 110 or so parking spots on the Diesel property, as well as over there behind that, leading down towards Truesdale and around that, there's going to be a lot more pedestrian traffic in that area. So I think that kind of goes with the neighborhood lighting, leading down to Oaks by the Bay, leading down to Truesdale, and all the, the walkability and connectivity that's going to happen when we build this new parking lot, to help with the parking that is so desperately needed in downtown St. Andrews.
If I can ask a question real quick, and I'd really like everybody's feedback. We were not originally going to do the inside of Truesdale. We didn't have enough money to do it, but because the Diesel shop purchase is now acting as a grant match for the parking improvement, it's kind of reduced the amount that we have to commit. So I don't know how everybody feels about maybe looking at a P3 on Truesdale that might be wedding and event stuff that goes alongside what we're doing on the inside. I just kind of get everybody's thoughts, on that. That's an idea that was kind of brought up. I don't know what everybody thinks about it. I don't know that it's allowed legally on that site. I would assume that some kind of lease could be done on that building. But I mean, obviously we'd want to keep as much clubhouse as we can with it, but it is a pretty big space.
Commissioner, you're just talking about them having kind of input on the inside, right? Because the ball's already rolling on the parking lot and the exterior.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
this would be strictly inside. The part that we were not planned nor ready to do, but we now have some funding to contribute towards it. I don't think we've got enough funding to do a full kitchen and those kind of things, but maybe if we struck a P3, we might find a partner to do that. I don't know what everybody thinks about it.
Yeah. And I'll just add this. So, I don't know that we're going to need any, there may be a chance, depending on what lighting we actually do, in some of the neighborhoods and along Chestnut. As a reminder, we're selling those parcels at 13th and Beck and 13th and Chestnut. And those were specifically sold for, the advantage of parking. So, that's going to help cover some of the expenses over for all the parking and maybe even some of the undergrounding and additional lights in and around those parking lots in certain stretches of Chestnut as well. Commissioner Granger, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So, Josh, are you looking at like a similar arrangement where they put in they outfit the inside of the building? Like they come in, they repair it, they fix it up, and so therefore they get to then use the building in so many days out of the week or what have you?
Yeah, or they may have a section of the building. So the building's kind of set up a little strange. Like you've got the kitchen is about a third way into the building. So there were CRA offices that were in the back that are gone now. And then there was a meeting space in the front. So, maybe in that CRA office area, there could be a different kind of take that's back there. I don't know. I think that there's probably a little bit more. It kind of goes like the same thing as the breezeway piece. What are the core things we want to see happen with it? Well, we'd like to have some space for the community to meet, and we'd like to have some public bathrooms, and we would like, there to be some kind of support to doing weddings in the park that's there. I think if those three are accomplished, well, that is the public use of that facility. The rest of the time, it just sits vacant. So is there somebody that could make those three happen, but also do something else with it as well?
Well, how big's the kitchen? Is it a full-blown kitchen?
It's nothing right now.
Oh,
yeah, it's empty.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend all this money on the
100,
outside of an empty building is what I guess I'm trying to get to. I'm like, well, maybe we can problem solve this in a different way.
So, Josh, question: you're looking for somebody? Doesn't one of your constituents, I think, wants to build something down on Lake Ware down there past Little Village, similar like a venue? Could he maybe participate and help and do the updating inside where you're talking about?
I don't know who that is, but
Sam.
it's, yeah, I don't know which one you're.
Sam.
Broke up. Sam. Oh, maybe. I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because I think they were talking about doing a venue on that side over there. So it's somebody. It can give him some other space to work with.
That's
I don't know.
true. Yeah, I
You
didn't think about
so
it.
we're talking about somebody. I don't know. Maybe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just really about it. So we kind of run into a similar issue with St. Andrew's School, and there's an aspect that is being encouraged at TDC and the county to find a P3 partner to help offset some cost. Well, the P3 partners that I've talked to, it's like, hey, for us to do a lift on just this one parcel, it's kind of like not big enough. So, to Jonathan's point, we finished when did we finish the auction, Jonathan? On the 14th the 13th and Beck parcel. When was the auction finished?
Oh man, I think it was like June-ish.
Yeah.
I'd have to say it was June-ish, and then we're working. Obviously we're putting on. The due diligence comes with that, and then we're putting on.
This is the longest due diligence piece that I've ever seen on a piece of
What was due diligence about?
Yeah, well,
exactly. I'm kind of done with what I'm trying to communicate is that I'm really done with waiting on this. Like we're kicking the can on 1,000 different things. The parcel on the back, it's already I think it closes this week. We're kind of I would rather pivot to somebody that wants to do something rather than just keep dragging this out.
So
I'll
let
volunteer my
me
services to
expand.
negotiate contracts and due diligence.
Yeah, let me. I'm not a real estate agent. I said
but no, seriously, John. Real quick, have they
Am I
not
muted?
closed on that? Have they not closed on that, John?
Yeah.
John?
No, okay. Let me jump in. I'm sorry. I'm not a real estate agent. I said due diligence. I don't know if that's the right term. Joy or Nevin, correct me. They had several months to do what they needed to do. So, and then in the middle of that, we clarified our expectation, just like with other things, that you have 3 years or 36 months to do X. And we had to kind of make sure that everybody understood that both buyers, not just the one buyer, but both buyers understood that just putting down gravel and putting down parking bumpers, that's not considered improvement. We want, if you're going to make parking, we're okay with that as a city, but it needs to be a fully designed, paved, landscaped, clearly delineated parking. Plus, one of the companies initially, I guess, put the contract forward with the wrong corporation and wanted to change that. So we kind of worked through that, and Commissioner Street is right that the closing for that is imminent in the next few weeks, 2-3 weeks. I can't remember exactly when.
There's that word again, guys. Imminent.
Imminent. Yeah.
I hate that word.
We heard it all day yesterday.
Oh, I don't. Imminent.
It's a different meeting. Sorry.
It's a different meeting. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what that reference is, but
DPC.
yeah.
It was just-
When I say imminent, what I'm saying imminent is there's really no more long poles in the tent. That project is ready. They're happy. Expectations of the city are clear. The revisions and expansions to the contract are clear. We got they've got their corporation name changed correctly, and we're really kind of just ready to go. And so it could happen at any moment. Mr. Zimmerman can speak probably more to the other two parcels up against Beck because the potential buyer and their attorney and Mr. Zimmerman and his team have been communicating back and forth. So, Mr. Zimmerman, I would defer to you on that, sir.
First, on the piece of property that I think it's the corporate name is Diego's, the owners of Los Anjitos, that is set to close, I think, October 2nd or 3rd. So there's been a date set. Documents have been signed. The other two parcels that are on the corner of Beck and 13th, maybe, whatever, the road is right there. There's still the person who was the apparent high bidder has not agreed to the terms, which are to have within 3 years that there be an improvement of the property. If there isn't an improvement of the property, then the city will have a right to buy it back at the same price that it was purchased on. And also to be clear that a parking lot, if there is going to be improved with parking, it has to be paved. Don't know exactly where we are on that. I know Mr. Branch has been in contact with the individual as well. There have been emails as recently as today going back, trying to see if there's any questions that are still there. So hopefully, at least there'll be a clear understanding of where we are very soon.
Hello?
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Hughes.
Like, since we haven't closed and we're in due diligence, can we negotiate? We're not going to buy it back. You're just going to give it back.
Yeah. First of all, no contract has been signed so we're really not in quote due diligence under the contract. So yes, it could all be.
We can't vote here, but I will vote for that one. Okay, another question, just as a question. Why 36 months on a piece of dirt that we know is going to be a parking lot? What's the thought process behind giving 36 months to make something stay flat?
I mean, would you like to see something happening sooner? I mean, I think
12 months, 14 months. I mean, why are we going to not park down there for 3 years?
Yeah. So, yeah, the answer is this. I don't, I know that I don't believe there's any like formal, like this is our city policy, but we had a conversation at a meeting, and it probably was before you were elected and sworn in, Mr. Hughes, but collectively, we just felt that like 36 months is reasonable time for someone to buy a property and come up with a plan and get a development order and build it. I don't mind. I have no issue with reducing it to 24 months or expanding it to 48. I think the collective agreement was, and I think Mr. Street, Mr. Granger were probably a little bit more involved in that. We just felt 36 months was a reasonable benefit to both the city and the potential seller. Mr. Street?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Robbie's point this really isn't vertical development. This is flat, still horizontal development. This is not like some crazy amount of complexity that comes with building a parking lot. So one of the things I would say is too, yeah, we said 36 months, that may be good, but we've already now eaten like 4 months just sitting here. And I think the issue that I'm getting to is like, I know there are people, we had an unsolicited proposal that came to us on this parcel that somebody was ready to build like an Airbnb village with tiny homes and like this cool little cottage grove thing. I mean, these are all like opportunity costs that's also costing us now too. So I would say this kind of just needs to either just stop or I'd like to see us combine maybe some parcels like 14th and Beck and St. Andrew's School and this one and see if we can't get something of more size and scope and see if we can attract a partner that wants to come in and develop with us. So,
Got it.
And I agree with that, Josh.
Yeah. All right. So if I can just expand a little bit though, because I want to make sure that as you guys deliberate, y'all have the full picture. So nobody said 36 months knowing that all we were talking about was a parking lot. That's not how it went. It initiated was, we don't really need these parcels, and they're prime real estate right up on Beck Avenue or one block off on Chestnut. Let's sell them to someone and say we want them to do something, and we want to do something in 36 months. I think we all assumed it would most likely be like some type of commercial or real estate or something that would have very value. That was our assumption, fair assumption. And I think all of us on the last commission and the staff kind of felt that way. However, as the auction happened and people bid on it, it just so happens that the two companies that really wanted it, both wanted it for parking because, spoiler alert, we have parking situation in downtown St. Andrews. And so the response was, hey, we're going to do parking. Would that be allowed? And of course, the answer was, of course. There's no prohibition that it can't be parking, but just want to be clear, like you still have that window. maybe we should have said, if you're going to do parking, you have to do it in X months rather than the 36 months. But what we said back was, yes, it can be parking. There's no prohibition to that with our ULDC, but just want to be clear, it's not going to be like gravel and, thing like that. Because if that's the case, I should just keep the lot myself, because I can put down gravel and people park there. So what we said was, if you're going to do that, it needs to be a fully paved, engineered landscape parking lot, much like the example that the city set with the one at Oaks by the Bay, the one across from Amavita behind Alice's and the Thai place, and then the one that we did right there by the boat ramp. That was kind of the example that we set with a parking lot. So I just want to be clear, nobody was selling them with the idea on the front end that it's going to be a parking lot and we're going to give them 3 years to do it. Because I agree that a parking lot is way more easier and a much easier lift as a project than something going vertical. So just to kind of give a little bit of history going back over the last, and Josh, please feel free to.
No, and the only thing I'll add is during this process, we've had an offer on an unsolicited proposal on vertical development. And so it's kind of like what.
And he'll buy it today, Josh.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, guys, I don't know what the difficulty is here, but at some point in time, we just got to say, hey, we gotta cut and let's go to the next thing.
And I'd like for us to think about how we structure our deals, because the worst thing that can happen to that guy if he gets it under contract and buys it is that 3 years he doesn't do anything, we buy it back from him. So there's no consequence. So why should he? You give it back and maybe have a fee. But I'd like for us to structure the deals where we're not the ones that get hurt. They are, but maybe we end up with it, because you're right, Josh. At 2 years, the pressure's on a little bit. At 1 year, it's on, but it's a parking lot. You can do it in a year. Now, if you're going to build vertical construction like this guy has made,
it might take 36 months. I understand. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we know that going in.
So Jonathan and Nevin, maybe we need to talk about what the wind down looks like, depending on where everybody is, so that we can get to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I'm trying to think, this was city. So this is not CRA property. So we could potentially, we've already published the agenda, Commissioner, but I could request this to be added to the agenda for September 23rd if you'd like. I think Mr. Zimmerman and I will have much more information by then. I just want what's best for St. Andrews through what the city's building on the old diesel property, with the boat trailer parking behind Hunt's, with the parking lot in the Chevron, and then the parking lot at Truesdale, plus what we did on the west side of Beck Avenue. There's a lot more parking down there. So, I don't know that a parking lot at the northeast corner of Beck and 13th is a critical issue. So I say that to say is I don't have any strong feelings on that. And as so I don't care if we end it now and move on to that unsolicited offer. I would really defer to Nevin that we do that correctly so that we don't get the city in legal trouble. So that's his seat on the bus. So, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yeah, I like to see. I'm here, and no, that was what I meant to say was that yes, we'll look at it and we can give you a full report on Tuesday. I know that we've been emailing today with the person who hasn't, finished the transaction there at the corner of Beck.
Hey, Nevin, didn't the CRA buy that piece back when they bought it, and then the city had to buy it back from the CRA, or what something like that?
I don't recall the CRA I don't recall the CRA being involved in it, but it just could be that I don't recall. But I think it's city money that paid for it.
Yeah,
and
if I can jump in, so they're reminding me. I think it was honestly before I moved back home and came to work, and even before Commissioner Street was sworn in, there was a P3. There was a P3 effort over there, and I think it. I don't know. It really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
No, this was a long time ago. They bought it.
Nobody on board liked it.
Yeah. Some of the responses, it sounds like the prior board really didn't.
It was the financing issue. They couldn't prove their financing and their ability to.
Gotcha.
And
I'll just add.
Yeah, and I'll just add, when we put, again, we treated both of these. Nevin will tell you, we treated both of these buyers equally when we put that. Hey, if you're going to do a parking lot, because they both, again, after they were the successful bidder at the auction, and they both indicated we want to do a parking lot. We told them both the same. Okay, that's fine, but you have to do X within Y months. And the one that we're getting ready to close on didn't flinch, said Roger Dodger, and we rocked and rolled. So, and there has been some hesitation, from the other to Mr. Zimmerman's point. So, but we'll be ready we'll add that to the item if that's what I'm hearing y'all would like to do.
Yeah. For
September
me,
23rd.
I kid you not, guys. I've probably had at least 3 to 4 conversations with different ones, and we have a formal unsolicited proposal in before us that is ready to build and construct. This may not be a bad thing, just to pivot and get to the person that's going to invest, the most. And so I look forward to hearing the report that you got on Tuesday. Is anything going to burn down between 9 and Tuesday? No, I don't think so. So, but this has been, for the future reference, like due diligence is typically 30 to maybe 60 days max. I've never seen a due diligence last from auction end until now approaching to October. So that's just a bit odd.
Yeah. Maybe this conversation that we're having will, spark the other buyer to,
Let me ask y'all a question.
commit to everything and sign this Friday. I don't know. So
Would it benefit the city and all of us if we use the same document for vacant land and the same document for commercial property, and if we're selling a house, the same document for a residential property? Like, all the same. And it all covers price. And that way we all know what we're doing with the same document. Is that something that would be beneficial for us?
It would be beneficial. I think we generally do, Commissioner, as far as the form. We use the 4-bar contract form as far as vacant and also residential. What we have here is the option to repurchase, and that is a separate document, and we've tried to standardize it, but in the past we've always had in there that it could be purchased back at the price patterned after the St. Joe restriction that it has had in its deeds for years, which is if you don't do it for the purpose that you said that you'd do it for, then use the property for, that St. Joe has the right to buy it back at the same price that you paid for it. So that was the pattern for that language, and that's the language that has been signed in the other piece of property that Diego's is going to close on October 2nd or 3rd. I think there are some other issues that are not connected to this actual purchase, or maybe the reason for the purchase may not be there any longer, as far as the second piece we're talking about, which is on the corner of that fronts Beck Avenue. But yes, we try to use the same documents, but this is, and it would be great to standardize as well, the option to repurchase.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Street. Then I want to respond.
I'd echo what Robbie said. I think a good standardization. Now the use might change. We might say, hey, we want something specific with that. But I do think, because what we could look at is even things that like we've seen St. Joe do, where like every time it sells, there's a contribution back to a nonprofit. That could be the nonprofit that the city has. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we could do inside of the deed, as well as the standardized contracts that would ultimately result in either a higher yield to the city, or at least a lot less legal and more clarity from it. So
yeah. So I'll just add 2 things. I think I agree with Devin. I think for the most part we use it, but I would always encourage us to leave maximum flexibility for the commission, because it's y'all's prerogative. You may want to give someone 1 year to do something specific on a piece of property.
No,
Yeah.
because the longer you give somebody in a deal, the more opportunity it has to fall apart. You want people to work, have a date certain to work for, and get it done. Otherwise, the only person that loses in that, guys, is us.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Give them a year.
Yeah.
No, don't give them a year.
No. Okay. What I'm saying is, instead of 3 years, y'all may say, no, we want something done in a year. And if you can't commit to that, we're not selling you this piece of city property. That's what I was trying to say, like significantly expediting the process. Now, what I will say too is one of the reasons why we went through this process is, again, when they went out for auction, none of us was thinking parking lot. We thought someone would invest with this. Yes, maybe do parking on the Chestnut side and then build something on the Beck Avenue commercial front side of it. And when they both said, hey, we want to do parking
That's what I thought, by the way. That's what I was hoping for, is a lighter building on Beck Avenue. I'm just going to say that's what I was looking for.
And that's what staff was thinking. And then when that didn't happen, what I wanted to do in my role was make sure, because I heard this over and over and over again, and I won't use any names, but we didn't want to create an atmosphere where we sell city property and then people just sit on it and don't do anything. Or make it a gravel parking lot, because then people are going to be coming to me and to y'all and being like, why the heck did y'all sell that? And yes, I sense this, and I know there's not maybe 100% unity, but at the end of the day, it's our property. And yes, I think it's perfectly appropriate to have some level of what we want done with it if we want to sell it, or we can hang on to it. And so again, I think that's why we were trying, Nevin and I and Mr. Fuller and Brandy, we were trying to be very careful that we didn't move forward with the sale of these parcels and only end up with gravel parking lots. And people are like, well, hey, that's an improvement in our book. So we had to double check with the ULDC. We double checked with the attorneys, doing our own internal due diligence to make sure that we actually ended up with what you guys wanted. Again, it was the last commission, but that was an improved parcel in the St. Andrews area that was made better, that someone invested in. Because again,
and Jonathan, you're right. We need to. But we need to tell them up front. Or if I say to you, Jonathan, I want to say these lots are going to be for sale and they cannot be a parking lot, and you have to build vertical within 2 years. That's all. There's my restriction. It can't be a parking lot and it has to be built in 2 years. That's it. We don't tell them what to build, but if they don't do that, we won't give them a development order for a parking lot. If they haven't built in 2 years, they deed it back to us. And they lose the money, not us. But you're right. We have the ability to do that and should, but just not in the weeds deep. Tell them what's
understood. I think where we're maybe not communicating is that's kind of what we did. Okay, we went out to sell it because we said we want people to take this and we want to put it back into the commerce. We want to put it back on the tax rolls. We want to sell this to a private person so that they can then turn it into benefit themselves and benefit the city. We didn't put any stipulations on it other than whatever improvements you do, you got to do it within 3 years. Okay, like you can't just sit on it for 5, 7, 10 years. We want to see something happen within 3 years. That was the only stipulation. Again, we all had the assumption, like Commissioner Street just affirmed, we thought for sure someone would buy the whole thing, because initially we went out and did them all together because we thought, and I think rationally so and reasonably so, that someone would buy the Beck Avenue front side and then need parking on the back side. And then when we didn't sell it for what it was appraised for, we went back out to auction again at the recommendation of the auctioneer and split them up. And at that point, we had one by offer 2 and one offer by 1, and they all said we want to do parking. Well, that wasn't what we were expecting. And so I was not just going to plow ahead and let these lots get sold without making sure that, that our ULDC didn't allow gravel parking lots. I wanted to make sure that y'all were still good with that and the feedback that we got from the community. And so that's how we ended up where we are today. Because again, I'm surprised that we sold these prime pieces of property and all they want to do is do parking lots. And
I'll tell you why. Because
Street said the same thing, and he's had a lot of engagement with the St. Andrews community.
But I'll tell you why, because Los Angeles, the day it opened, didn't have enough parking. So they had to rent across the street immediately. So Greg lost parking and Matt needed parking. So now Ish gets parking that he needs because Greg's going to take his back. That's why they need it. Right. There's a reason for it, but And we can have that conversation with them, but that's why they need the parking there. And we bought it as a parking lot. Remember, the city bought it for that.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be that way. But that's the answer to your question of why they say parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to protect the city's interest and make sure that at the end of this process, we didn't just end up with like a gravel parking lot, or even worse, a grass parking lot. Because if that's all we were going to end up with, then I shouldn't have sold it. I should have just gone in there and just kept my guys mowing it and made it parking. I wanted to make sure that, that we could legally require them to landscape a parking lot and make it fully to that design. And we got that way, confirming that with the ULDC and the requirements in the contracts and everything, at least for the Diego, the Ishmael and Omar purchased for the purposes of parking at Los Indijitos, to your point, Mr. Hughes. So.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, you've been abnormally quiet.
Yeah, you've enjoyed it.
You've
No,
enjoyed it.
I love the sound of your voice.
I know you do.
All right,
No, sounds good.
Commissioner Granger, I don't know, or are we done?
Well, I guess I've been talking this whole time. I mean, I don't know if that's.
Have you been muted?
No, you keep saying my name, so I didn't know what.
I'm just trying to give you a chance to speak, sir.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you circulate the presentation that you showed today?
Yes, sir. To everyone but you. No. I'll send it to everyone right after. Yeah. I'll send it around to everybody after this for sure.
The work plan.
You mean well, he already got that yesterday. You're talking about the 7 or 8 PowerPoint slides. Yes, sir.
I will say this. I am excited everybody is supportive of actually getting things built on city's property and not just like, oh, hey, we're just selling more vacant land to get more vacant land. That's been a theme of everything we've talked about. So I'm very excited to hear everybody's push.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, Commissioner Street, because I think he and I both heard it a lot when we went out to auction these properties. There were people raised, I think, very fair concerns in the St. Andrews community. Hey, be careful. We don't want like kind of what y'all have downtown where, folks are just buying up a bunch of land and property and just sitting on it. We don't want that to happen in St. Andrews. Please, city leadership, please, Commissioner Street, don't let that happen. And so we were trying to make sure that the property we did sell was legitimately improved for the betterment of St. Andrews.
And I thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Because that was made clear to Commissioner Street, and I can assure you he made it clear to me. So
I'm always nice, Jonathan. You make it sound like I wasn't being nice.
no, you were perfectly nice. All right. Anything else, Mr. Mayor? Staff?
So the work plan will get posted. It's, best practices to get it posted by October 1. But of course, as we continue to have discussions on the specific projects, we can amend, we can leave the project like on that 450 for Millville, we can leave it as a road resurfacing / sidewalk project. And as we work towards, maybe trying to use it as match dollars for a grant or for legislative request, or, we can continue having those discussions as the fiscal year goes on, but the work plan will get posted on the website by October 1. Just wanted to let the board know that. That'll be prior to our next meeting.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Mayor? We good? I didn't hear any objection to canceling the October virtual workshop because of CRA, both staff and elected official conflict. And so for those that might have joined late, keep Commissioner Lucas and her friend in your thoughts and prayers. she is an emergency contact for a friend in Tallahassee who had some type of emergency, so she had to rush over there to help this evening. And so, praying for her safe travel and for her friend, and as Commissioner Lucas, ministers and cares for her. So, all right, thank y'all.